Hello, I'm Alex McDowell. Many think the French invented the metric system, but I will show how it is invented by John Wilkins, an English bishop.
To define his standard, John Wilkins proposed using a pendulum consisting of a spherical bob on a piece of string. When the pendulum was at the right length so that it would swing from one extreme to the other in 1 second, then the definition of his standard unit of length would be the distance from where the pendulum was anchored at the top to the middle of the spherical bob. I made this one a bit too long. And this one is too short. But this one is just right. Here in London, the length of such a pendulum, known as a seconds pendulum, is 0.994 metres, i.e. very nearly 1 metre. The French chose not to use pendulums to define the metre because gravity varies depending where on Earth you are. Hence, as we can see, the length of the seconds pendulum also varies depending on your location. Like the metric system of today, John Wilkins' system was decimal. For example, his base unit, called a standard, consisted of 10 feet, and his foot consisted of 10 inches. Here are some examples of units of length in John Wilkins' system. As you can see, many of them have the same names as imperial measures, which would have caused confusion. As with the metric system, John Wilkins defined his units of volume in terms of units of lengths, just as the litre in the metric system is defined as the cubic decimetre. I have some cards here that are 10 centimetres by 10 centimetres, i.e. 1 decimetre by 1 decimetre, and I'm going to make a cubic decimetre. And here we have the finished box, which is a cubic decimetre, and therefore has the capacity of 1 litre. Originally, the kilogram was defined as the mass of a litre of water. John Wilkins also defined his units of mass as those of unit volumes of water. I will now weigh a litre of water. Here is my 1 litre jug. The top of the red tape is the 1 litre mark. Now to zero the scales of the empty jug on them. And now to weigh my litre of water. Okay, it reads 25 grams more than a kilogram, but that is an error of only 2.5%. Well, kitchen scales and measuring jugs are probably not that accurate. So, what does John Wilkins' system have in common with the metric system realised by the French more than 120 years later? It avoided defining units as prototypes, which change over time and can be lost, as happened with the UK yardstick in a fire in 1834. The French originally defined the metre as a 10/millionth of the distance from the North Pole to the equator. Wilkins suggested such a definition for the standard, but thought the pendulum definition would be easier. Units of volume defined as cubic units of length. Units of mass defined as those of unit volumes of water. And of course, it was decimal. I used my kitchen scales to see how much milk is left in the Tetra Pak. The empty Tetra Pak weighs just 25 grams. 450 grams, so there's about 425 cc's of milk left in the Tetra Pak. The French made prototypes for the metric units and used them as standards, but base units were later redefined in terms of physical constants. Like the Wilkins standard, the metre is now defined in terms of the second. Since 1983, the metre has been defined as the distance travelled by a light in a vacuum in a certain length of time, because the speed of light is a physical constant. Now the kilogram and all SI units are defined in terms of physical constants and not prototypes. In summary, the similarities are: both systems are decimal, the use of natural standards instead of prototypes, units of volume are cubic units of length, units of mass are those of unit volumes of water. The units themselves are almost the same in both systems. The main difference between the two systems is just the units' names. So it was English Bishop John Wilkins who invented the metric system and not the French.